Welcome back, everybody. Finally, we have got almost a full house. We're only one man down today, but Anna makes up for two people. So she is here, and she is the most important person in the room today. But yeah, it's been a while. How's everyone going?
Hi, everyone. I'm also not pregnant. It sounded like I'm pregnant.
No, I'm just saying your level of importance in this conversation is the equivalent to two people. Are you pregnant?
I'm not, unfortunately. I wish I was, but I'm not.
I think since the last time the four or five of us were together on a podcast, let's see, for Anna and me, inside of a 6-week period, I suffered a stroke, and Anna was caught in Valencia, Spain, in those horrible catastrophic flooding, the flooding that happened there. So I don't know about you guys, but Anna and I both very, very luckily okay. But oh my God, we've had a month and a half.
Yeah.
Crazy times, indeed. And I was across, of course, your near-death experience, and we don't joke about that, do we, Anna?
We do not. It's against the law. I will kick your butts.
Exactly. I was just saying, the videos of Valencia are mind-blowing. It's like something out of a movie, the level of carnage.
I think I've never seen anything like it, and I did not think that Europe is the place for anything like it either. So I think the geography of it all is striking as well, because this is not happened in like the US or Asia or the Caribbean, where people are kind of prepared. I'm not saying it's better in those places, but at least people are prepared. In Valencia, people don't know what to do. If it happens in England, we won't know what to do.
But we're seeing more of this. That's the concern here, isn't it? Not to go into the whole climate change topic, but look at the Danube River as well, and it's burst its banks, completely destroyed Budapest all the way down to Slovakia, etc. And now we're seeing this in Valencia. It's becoming more and more frequent. It's not becoming like an abnormal occurrence, and that's what's worrying.
Crazy.
Well, that's a great positive start to the podcast. So.
Well, you know what? I kick off. I can put something positive on this, and I know it sounds trite and corny, but sometimes you just go through moments in your life that remind you to go home and love your kids or love your partner and be with your family, and sometimes you just go through those moments in life that remind you of what's really important. So
true.
Yeah, go love your people, everyone. Do it.
I took 18 months off because of that, 4 deaths in 1 year in my family. And it definitely is sobering. And I was at the height of my career at that point. When I said the height of my career, I was on a good, I still got way more heights to go. The office Will's made me, I know I've got many mountains to climb. But yeah, it is a sobering thing, and good reality check, about what is the thing that's important in life.
Yeah, it really is.
So transition time, like that.
What are we talking about today?
So a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, Anna and I sat down together and we did a podcast. In fact, the specific podcast was episode 612. And if you want to go back and have a look at it, and we're talking about trust and the importance of trust between partners, between customers, and between Microsoft. And so, we get feedback on episodes, and I just want to share some feedback on one of the episodes that we got from Rachel Roberts. And I'm wondering, Anna, do you want to just read out what she says? Because I think it's a good thing to drill into today in a bit more detail.
Yeah, I think you're right. First of all, I love those episodes that we get to do together, because I feel like it can turn pretty interesting, without being sometimes as geeky as usual.
The one-to-one episodes, I've done a couple of them with Mark, and I with the greatest fondness for the other 3 of you. The one-to-one episodes with Mark are totally different because, as you heard, done at least 612 podcasts. They're fun. They're really fun to do.
Thank you, sir.
So here's what Rachel's saying here. She's saying, this episode's on my watch list, so pardon me if my comment is redundant. I love the topic of trust in business and in AI. I believe humans need to work together and be involved and intentional with the integration process of newer technology. How do we want to work alongside AI, quantum, new tech? What benefits do we see, and how do we plan a path towards them instead of letting organic doubts seed the way? We need intention to set a clear vision, and the only ones that can do that is us, and I mean all of us. We need to be involved in shaping the positive, bright future and all that is available. Otherwise, other undesirable or more difficult possibilities can emerge. We'll lose sight of the original goal. Change is so hard, but we get to decide on what process looks like. If we put intention behind it, in doing so, you can build trust and reduce fears of uncertainty, not just in AI, but in each other as well. I just think this is like a totally beautiful comment. Your comment is absolutely not redundant because it offers such an interesting perspective, because we were talking about the trust between customer and consultancy, customer and, providers such as Microsoft and so on and so forth. But I think Rachel talks about the trust in ourselves and our own teams and our own processes and in our own path, in the end, because it's so tempting to just fall in love with your skills and then forget about that path to change or to adoption of new technology and how intentional you are with it. I think it's an interesting comment.
I thought it was interesting in the kind of the pre-recording before we hit the record button on this. Each of us pulled something different out of that comment. So yeah, first of all, absolutely, Rachel, thank you so much for listening and for the great comment. The part that I pulled out of that was the idea of vision and intentionality for how how an individual and how an organization adopts artificial intelligence or any technology. So I actually just have spent the last couple of days with an organization that is really at the beginning of their AI journey. And of course, like almost every other organization on the planet, that also means that at the beginning of their data journey, their data platform journey, they're talking about Power Platform. They're talking about modernizing applications to make the data in those applications ready for AI. And what so many organizations, including, by the way, CIOs and other executive or C-level leaders, I still hear so much of is, essentially, we want the AI. We think it's good, or maybe we're panicked because we don't have it. We want it. And I hear a lot of still obsessing about use cases or scenarios or, the specific workloads or the specific use cases. And I always try to back these organizations out and say, let's be intentional and let's all of us think about what our collective vision is for the application of this technology inside of, whatever it is, our team, our organization, across the workforce, whatever. So, the part that I really pulled out of that comment was just the importance of vision and intentionality. I'm sure we'll dig into it. Will, what do you think?
So there's definitely elements of that, and I agree with you, and would echo what you said, Andrew. And I think it's quite funny when we look at the adoption of technology over the past sort of 20 years. It's normally either IT pushing up to the exec level, or line of business owners going, "We need this," and pushing up to the exec level. But because of the Gartners of the world, the Financial Times, even BBC, and all the other news articles, for once it's the exec boards going, "We need this. We don't know what it is, but everyone else is doing it, and I want a slice of it."
Right. We're terrified. Bring it to us.
And it's quite interesting, and it does. You are right. No clear objectives. I've got onto ChatGPT and I've got it to write me a poem about making a brownie in the style of Snoop Dogg, and we're like, okay, well then let's use that within your business. No, we need to do something else. So I definitely picked that up as well. But I also picked up, the fact that there's a lot of change management with items such as this, because people freak out around words, especially like AI, even quantum. Actually, I found it fascinating. She actually called out quantum, and it'd be a nice one to dig into, a bit of qubits, etc. But AI already means a lot to people in this world, thanks to Hollywood. And it's always seen as this quite evil thing that's going to take everything away. And every time we bring out automation, even the calculator, when it first came out, the accountants went mad thinking they had no job left from it. So I think change management and adoption management and enablement here and digital literacy is really key. And I think those are some elements it jumped out to me when reading that. And once again, a fantastic comment. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Just to pull on that thread a bit, I've been working with a bunch of folks in the role of CTO across the world. And when I say a bunch, over 100 of them in the last couple of weeks that fill this role. And one of the common threads around these executive discussions is FOMO. They are worried that their competitor is going to get ahead of them. So it's not like that they have hey, this is what we want to do. This is how they're just like, we don't want to get left behind. And as you say, they're here in the Gartner reports, etc. One of the observations I've made, IT is still the handbrake, because it's another piece of tech that they've got to maintain and look after. And so they're just like, whoa, slow down. One organization came across, said, listen, we know our data is shocking, and we don't want people, the whole, security by obscurity. They know, the IT department knew. They said, listen, it's going to take us 2 years. Let's just not. So I'm like, hang on a second. You're at security, have a security risk profile here, but let's not, because adding AI in the mix will actually just blow it up for everybody, and they will know that we've got a security. I'm just like, I cannot be, it shocks me, the complacency of that type of attitude. And then the other one was around adoption that you talked about, Will, there, is that I have seen sizable implementation, 1,000+ seats of Copilot being rolled out with absolutely no adoption plan. No, we turned it on and nobody's using it type attitude. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, are you serious that you go and spend that amount of money, turn it on, people don't even use it? How weird. And you don't, I feel that this AI needs more of an adoption rigor to it than perhaps a lot of the other IT rollouts that we've had in the past. Cloud to a lot of people was transparent to them. They didn't see it, right? Your servers moved. It wasn't going to be a big deal to the end user, but to not put and I'm a big fan of ProSci, a proper change methodology in place to actually take people on a journey and increase their AI literacy by 30%, it's got to be intentional. It can't be just, well, let's see how they go. And I think fundamentally the biggest reason people are not adopting it at the speed that they could be, particularly the chat experience, is that chat window looks very similar to a search window in Google. And when people approach it, they approach it from the point of, I'm going to ask a question. And they are using a search paradigm rather than a conversational paradigm and how they engage. And so one or two things happen. One, the answer is magical. And they're like, what is this crazy thing? Or two, the answer is not good. And so therefore they go, this is all overhyped, right? And I had this metaphor that I shared on a podcast I was on out of Turkey this week. I was a guest on somebody else's podcast, which is crazy. I've never done this forever. And then all of a sudden I'm getting asked to all these different podcasts to be a guest. And what came up is that I said to the host, I said, when people approach AI and you've gone through a rigor around training, around practice, and around using it, you and I, if you haven't trained, if you haven't gone through an adoption process, we're going to have widely different results. I said it would be like you being trained for 10 years as an oil painting artist. You would pick up the brush. What you would create after 10 years of practice and rigor would be something probably amazing. I said, if I picked up that same paintbrush, had the same set of oils, the same canvas as you, you're going to get a stick figure, right? Because that's the level of my skill and training. So do I say, oh no, the paints and the artist brush and the canvas, they've got the problem? Or is it the difference is one has been trained, one has had practice, one gets a totally different outcome?
I think you can take that same example and apply it on not any, but a lot of the technology, especially low code, right? Low code came out with this paradigm that everybody can use it, right? The citizen development movement and like all these people trained to do low code, and it created a discrepancy between low code developers and pro code developers. And going back to trust a little bit, now we are asking pro code developers to create enterprise applications because they are the professional developers. Only they haven't trained with the brushes and the paint. So, and I'm not trying to say that they create ugly canvas apps. I'm trying to say that they're gonna go back and try and mold something else, i.e. write the code because they haven't been trained and they do not trust the technology and they do not trust their team. And that's a big problem for like all of us, regardless on which side of the story you are, whether you are a pro code developer or a low code developer.
This all comes back to change is hard, and we have a saying, don't we? A bad workman always blames their tools. If evolution didn't exist, we'd still be swinging from trees. All of this comes back to the fact that we are happy to stick to where we are. And another good example of this, the oil painting, one of the things that I liken it to is we've had, and it's nothing to do with tech, we've had a boom in sort of mindful eating. So we've had, HelloFresh delivered and other Gusto. And all of a sudden, you would say you're an okay cook, but the moment you start following these recipes, you become a great cook. And it's just about that change management and training, and it's the same principle though. So having, and you're doing that by proxy, just by learning, by having structured materials, by doing mild hackathons over a burger, it's how we work. But I think we're always going to have concerns when the tech intensity and the wave intensity of tech is coming at us faster and faster, and our time to adopt is actually getting shorter and shorter, and that's where we're having issues. It's the velocity this is getting thrown at us. Cloud was great because it came out in 2008, 10. We had years to take that on before then big data and analytics came along and then more years before then actually advanced bidirectional encoder and even GPT came along. But it's getting faster now. Now it's multimodal. Now it's agents. Now it's something else. And that's creating a much higher intensity.
It's like you read my recent white paper. Thank you, William.
I do. I've done talks on this as well. I do my tech intensity talks that Anna's had to put through a few times. But yeah, I think it's probably the same.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Thank you. I can't thank you enough.
Have any of you started or looked very closely at semantic kernel? Came out in July this year from Microsoft.
It's something I've browsed over and I've referenced again recently because we're doing a piece of work for a client around sort of adopting AI, but actually building out a process for them. It's not something I'm well versed on, Mark. So, feel free to give an intro to it.
It's pretty incredible, but like any of these new things coming out, right, it could easily be superseded by something else. As in, it's open source. I'm pretty sure it's open source. Microsoft have provided it in that framework. But I saw a presentation last week, which was quite an eye-opener of using it to redefine the e-commerce experience. And when you bring generative AI into the mix and just the speed that you could create a totally different e-commerce experience, let's say that was 100% voice-driven. So one of the things that they have found in e-commerce, right, elderly people struggle with, one, searching a website for the product they want, two, adding it to a cart, three, going through a checkout process that involves a credit card and, having something delivered. And of course, the whole model could be voice generated. And, the demo went through, the person said, listen, went to a retail website and said, I want some black boots. And as such, the software doesn't know what the color black is, and it doesn't know what a boot is, right? Two dimensions of potentially a product in a database. But generative AI, right, knows what black is. It knows it's a color. And the scientific folks, don't accuse me about whether black or white is a color or not. You'll get the concept, right? And it says, hey, yeah, I've got something. It hands it to an API and says, do you understand this? Like black, we've got a whole bunch of products that are black. Boots, what are boots? Well, they're footwear. And so it hands it to that API, and it hands back and said, yeah, I've got these black boots, and it just displays on screen the options. And then the person goes, well, I need size 8. And it doesn't have to have all that stuff pre-programmed, because the generative AI allows it to reference it and then says, can you add it to my cart, and can you just use my regular credit card? And there might be a validation step of putting in your CVC? Yeah.
CVV.
Which might be an auditory entry again. I might say 1, 2, 3, and bang, it's all done without this. And of course, it brings in a whole bunch of, I think, is a keyboard, and of course, it's not going to go away, the keyboard, and I'm not going to say the keyboard is dead. That would just be stupid. But what I'm saying is that I think we're going to...
Do you remember that scene from Star Trek, The Voyage Home, with the whales, when Scotty he tries to talk to the mouse as if it's a microphone, and then he says, oh, a keyboard, how quaint.
But aren't we going there, where voice is going to be the more dominant interface for doing, maybe not for making, but for day-to-day stuff?
We aren't, in my opinion, because you may say we are going there where the voice is the most dominant tool that we've got. And we are, but even that requires adoption. To give you an example, now if you go onto an IKEA and you pick up your products, mm-hmm. and then you go to the self-checkout tills, you can't actually self-checkout. You need to download an app and then scan your products with the app, and then scan the checkout on your phone, and then you can pay. And if you ask, this is not my own experience, I read it somewhere on a random article this week, when they asked the assistant what the hell just happened, the assistant was like, well, this is much easier for you because you can scan products as you go through the shop. And but they didn't know.
This drives me crazy. There's the Aldi, I think, down the street, the Aldi Go, or I forget what it's called, right? And I remember Anna and I walked in there with our daughter, and we had no idea what was going on. And we had to, we walked there, we couldn't figure out how to get past the gate. We finally figured out that we had to download an app, but then it was do we both need to download the app? Can we both walk through the gate? Can we bring Alexandra with us? And then, the whole experience was just so terrible. And I'm sorry, this is a little bit, but this is just such a pet peeve of mine, this idea of...
thing.
It's the adoption.
Yeah.
It's the adoption journey again. It's all the same.
It annoys the crap out of me.
It could be the most efficient process on earth, but if you don't know how to use it, it's completely inefficient and pointless to you because you are the user.
So going back to the voice, do you talk at all of the apps, at all of the websites? What's the prerequisite?
It's going to be Neuralink soon. It's going to be Neuralink soon, so don't worry.
So one of the things that when we think about voice is that, voice being our primary interface, it's shifting from being tactile, a keyboard or a mouse or a touch screen that we manipulate with our hands. I'm uncomfortable with that, not for any particular, moral or philosophical reason, right? But just because the tactile interacting with my devices and with the software on those devices is such an ingrained part of what has become my creative process. And, you know, I'm really of two minds on this. One thought that I have is that maybe this is going to go, you know, if we're going to see more and more of this interaction shifting to voice interaction, because I have to say, even in what I perceive to be early returns with Copilot and ChatGPT and the ability of these technologies to interpret and act on things that I say, it's impressive, right? And it's still very, very early days. So on the one hand, I think, you know, maybe this is one of those long-held tech nerd dreams, right? Sort of like the video conference that it took the pandemic and it took Teams for us to all finally turn, you know, Teams or Zoom or whatever, for us to all finally turn on our cameras. This was something that I thought was long just dumb. It was not a thing that I wanted to do. I had no real interest in video calls. I didn't FaceTime people. I just thought it was dumb. So on the one hand, I think maybe eventually I will get over thinking that interacting with my device via my voice is no longer dumb, because I'm going to get used to it, or maybe we've backdoored it with things like Siri and Alexa and that type of thing. Or on the other hand, more concerning, maybe I'm just old now, right? Like maybe this is me like trying to transition from pen and paper to the newfangled computer. I don't know.
I think it's going to be multimodal, because it's not going to be a one replaces the other. Because like what I've just found out recently as I have got into doing more and more writing is actually I'm going to write on a pen and paper, you know, that old thing. I'm not going to get out the coal from the fireplace and start writing, but I'm going to use pen and paper, pencil maybe. But the beauty is now I can take a photo of it, chuck it into generative AI, now it's in digital format for me to take further, but I've still been allowed, as you say, Andrew, to go through your chosen creative process with your keyboard. I can still do that, and it allows me to articulate my ideas, my scribbles, things like that. And this way, I think we're going to become more and more cyborgish, right? And that we're going to be able to extend ourselves with AI. We're going to have a second brain, which is digital, and it's not about going, okay, you're ancient. That's an old way of doing it. I think it's both.
Something, just as an aside, something really funny to me, or not, I don't know, funny, but something interesting happened to me today. For the first time in maybe ever, or God knows how long, today, I couldn't wrap my brain around how to get the mathematical result that I wanted out of Excel. And I did first, and then I realized, well, I don't own paper, so it's going to be the iPad. So I pulled my iPad out of my backpack, and I got the Apple Pencil, and I scribbled there. And I actually did the math. I had to draw a little picture of a pie chart, and I did the math. I scribbled it, and then I said, okay, I now understand what I'm trying to get Excel to do. And I copied it over from Excel, but it was maybe the first time ever that I actually went from Excel, which I couldn't figure out how to get to solve the math problem, and I worked it out on paper. So that was an odd experience today.
Will.
No, it's the comment's slightly gone from context, but I was going to say this also with all the examples we're given, it does go back to the fact that another thing on top of tech intensity is also that products and product-driven organizations are much more comfortable with being agile and shipping products and features just one at a time before they build a critical mass of usability. We've seen that with ChatGPT because they've had to put so much money into it. They said, look, we're just going to give you this feature to start with, and then we're going to launch more and more. We're going to start making it more multimodal, reaching out to DALL-E Whisper. You know, if we look at this and actually look at tech intensity over the years, even the smartphone back in 2002, when it first came out, no one remembers Handspring Trio. No one remembers that's the first one,
I do. That thing was awesome. I loved my Treo. That thing was great.
But when it first came out, it was an analog phone that could connect to the internet. It only had a browser. But what happened from there? Is that there was a bit of adoption, but then actually we fast forward, and the big man himself, Steve Jobs, stands on stage in 2007 or whenever it was, and goes, "Yeah, it can connect to the internet, but it can take pictures, it can listen to music, you can send images, you can do." And it's suddenly, because they rolled out more and more, which was actually not that much more complex than what Handspring Trio did. Suddenly everyone went wild for it, and now it's used by 80% of the global population in general smartphones.
If you want I think go back and watch, if you're listening to this, go back and just look it up on YouTube. And Steve Jobs keynote when he announced the iPhone. It's one of the greatest. It's like one of the greatest bits of showmanship, and the way that he, are you getting it? It's an iPod. A phone. It's a phone. Internet browsing device. It's a music player. Like,
it was 4 things, wasn't it? It was 4 things that he said, all in one device.
Yeah, I'm so it's such a moment. Go back and watch it on YouTube. Pour yourself a glass of wine.
But he was selling a lifestyle at the same time. He was a clever guy.
Yeah,
yeah.
Largest company in the world till 24 hours ago was Apple, and I don't know if you have seen, but now Nvidia. Is the number 1 company in the world.
Yeah, I've seen it coming. They were so smart. They were so incredibly smart.
How crazy though? Like, as in how things have changed so quickly.
Incredible. I mean, it didn't change quickly, but nobody paid attention to Nvidia. Everybody thought they were just producing like.
What happens when there's a gold rush? Do you go find the gold, or do you sell the pickaxes? It's one of those scenarios, right? And then we're going to sell the pickaxes. Right? Yeah.
Just like Cisco with the internet, right? Cisco built the infrastructure of the internet.
I had to look this up because I didn't want to make a false statement, but this is true. Nvidia's market capitalization is greater than the entire gross domestic product of the United Kingdom.
And that's going down rapidly.
We need to wrap this up because we're at time. Andrew, I'm going to throw to you as the only American in the room. You have a new president. Tell us about that.
My parents were divorced when I was in the 3rd grade as well. So if you'd like to just sort of rack up all the tragedies in my life, we can go there.
And we're out.
Does that tell you? and we're off. I mean, listen. I woke up yesterday morning just like everyone else. I think that it's I'll make no bones about my views of the world. I think it's a tragedy. And it to say that I am sad would be an understatement. I think I'm most sad that I know that people who I love, and there are some people who I love and care about who voted for the man. Like, come back to me once I've had a little more time. Right now, I'm sort of trying to put it out of my mind.
I don't want to bait you, but I won't. So we will leave it at that.
I don't want to, and I won't.
Yeah, I don't want to, and I won't.
On a more positive note, I'm going to kick it over to Anna. Can I kick it over to Anna for a moment?
Yes, yeah.
Anna has just, in the last 2 weeks, gotten her first MacBook. How's it working for you, Anna?
I'm still adjusting, guys. It's a journey.
I think there's a group you can go to.
There's a group, right?
It was like it took me 10 minutes to find the link. It's just I'm on an adoption
curve.
It's a tech intensity problem right here.
Indeed.
Okay, I'm going to with that. Thanks for joining us. See you on the next one.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.